What would actually happen if Iran's government collapsed tomorrow and control of its 60% enriched uranium stockpile was lost? Would terrorists get a nuclear weapon? Would another country seize it? Or would we see a dirty bomb in a major city? Today we're breaking down the realistic worst-case scenarios without the hype or the Hollywood exaggeration and explaining what experts actually worry about. Iran has produced uranium enriched to 60% purity, which is very close to weapons grade, which is typically around 90%. Public reporting, citing international inspectors, has estimated that Iran has accumulated hundreds of kilograms of this material, somewhere in the region of 440 kilograms from the latest reports. This matters because the hardest part of enrichment has already been done. Going from natural uranium to 60% purity is the heavy lifting part of the process. By comparison, going from 60% to weapons grade can be achieved in a relatively short time frame. That is what's sometimes referred to as the breakout time. A simple analogy would be to think of building a bomb like climbing a mountain. Natural uranium is base camp. 20% purity, you're halfway up. 60% purity, you're just below the summit. 90% purity, you've reached the summit, or in this case, you've reached weapons grade. Breakout time measures how long it takes to climb the last stretch once you're already near the top. And if somebody's already at 60%, that means they're very close. The 440 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium that Iran has could theoretically supply multiple nuclear devices if enriched to the required 90%. Now, the important distinction, 60% uranium is not a bomb, but it's close enough that losing control of it would trigger massive global alarm. When we say state collapse, we're not talking about protests. We mean central command breaks down, with the military splintering into various factions. We have already seen this happen across the Middle East in places like Iraq, Libya and Syria. While none of these countries had an active nuclear weapons program, the loss of state control and breakdown of law and order did destabilize a vast region of the Middle East. The potential problem with Iran is that nuclear site security becomes fragmented. Record keeping and oversight fail. In nuclear security, there's a key phrase, and that is loss of continuity of knowledge. That means inspectors no longer know exactly how much material exists, where it is, or whether it's been moved. And that's when risk skyrockets, not necessarily because somebody instantly builds a bomb, but because uncertainty drives escalation. One of the more serious nightmare scenarios is this. A powerful internal faction gains access to the uranium and decides to race for a weapon. In a state collapse scenario, material could be hidden, inspectors could be blocked, and records could disappear. Even if no bomb exists yet, other countries might assume one is imminent. That can lead to a continuation of conflict and a possible escalation into a major regional war. At this point, the biggest danger isn't immediate detonation, it's miscalculation. In unstable environments, materials can be sold, bartered, traded for protection, or transferred to allied groups or states. A collapsing nuclear state doesn't just create a domestic crisis, it can create a global proliferation crisis. And that's something the international system is built to prevent at almost any cost. Now let's address this common fear. Could terrorists use 60% uranium in a dirty bomb? Technically, yes. Practically, it's not an ideal material for that purpose. Uranium is not especially radioactive compared to medical or industrial isotopes. Most dirty bombs cause more damage from the explosion itself as opposed to the limited radiation it could release. What it can cause, though, is huge psychological or economical impact, which is still serious but not an apocalyptic scenario. The worst case multiplier is time. The longer nuclear material exists without verified oversight, the more dangerous the situation becomes. Because once nobody credible can say we know exactly where it is, or we know exactly how much exists, every country will plan for the worst and most destructive possibility. And that's when conflict spirals. So what's the real worst case scenario? Not instant nuclear annihilation, not a movie-style meltdown. The true nightmare is loss of control, loss of transparency, which could lead to rapid miscalculation and an escalation based on fear rather than facts. Nuclear crises are rarely about what has already happened. They're about what people believe might happen next. And in geopolitics, belief can be just as dangerous as reality. If you found this video useful, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.